All right, we are live. It says it's been live for 20 seconds, but anyways, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the show. Coach Trey once again has been holding the fort down, while times have been troubling on my side as far as work, and I've had a new work schedule, so I'm trying to get adjusted to all of that. So, Trey's been holding it down, and I appreciate his hard work. He really loves doing this, and I can't say enough good things about him. And as far as his skills go and what he sees on the football field, especially on the collegiate level. So, um, Trey, how you feeling about where we're at? We're on episode 16. We've got 2 weeks left in the regular season. So, how are you feeling right now? Where's your head at as far as the season? Maybe one of your favorite teams, the outlook of the college football rankings.
Um, well, obviously, guys, welcome back. Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. Um, I'm actually kind of at an impasse right now with the football season. I think that we've gotten to the point of like we know who teams are, and now it's like we've been talking about look ahead games all year. Well, now everything's a look ahead because we're all looking towards the end. The college football playoff rankings are out. Um, I know I didn't really dive too deep on every single one of those teams, but I feel good. Excuse me. I feel pretty good. I just think that there's going to be some pretty interesting last couple of weeks. We're going to see who's made of the right stuff. I think coming down the pipe. To be honest.
And I know you have been chomping at the bit to talk about the college football rankings. So I just want to just dive right into that. There's not really much traffic this week as far as games. I mean, we've got a big game in the Pac 12. We've got two big games. We've got UCLA, USC, and Utah, Oregon, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So those are two big games, and then you maybe have a trap game in Georgia, Kentucky. Outside of that, you've got TCU, and the books just don't respect them. So we'll get into that a little bit later on. But well, go ahead, man. Let's get into your rankings conversation. I'm eager to hear it.
I did this exercise with a friend of mine like outside of this show before, and I apologize for the vibrations on the screen. I'm going to go ahead and mute my phone here. So anyway, so I did this exercise with a friend just the other day because I wanted to kind of jump through this a little bit and kind of see like what he thought. So I'm interested to see how it works with you. But last week on the show, I did a little bit of an in-depth breakdown about why people are getting so upset about where their teams are ranked whenever we have multiple weeks left to go. Like people feel like their teams are getting disrespected because they're not being ranked where they're supposed to be ranked. But there's a couple of ways to feel about that because I, for one, think that your record most of the time can say what you are, depending on circumstance. But that is subject to change whenever you look at strength of schedule, strength of record, time of time of play. But also teams are allowed to get better. And so if you're to look at a team like maybe an Oregon or even like an LSU, who's probably a better example of a team that's just gotten better every single week. And both of those teams, kind of started with their face on the bottom at the mat, and they got themselves up and got better. And so there's other teams like, Alabama that maybe you thought were going to start out strong, and maybe they didn't start out as strong. And then there's teams like Georgia and Ohio State and Michigan that have just been rolling people. And I will be the first person to say, I put this on Twitter. Go follow me at Twitter at Trey Goodwin, or the 4th and 1 podcast with Rusi and Coach. Is Michigan is heavily disrespected, and we're going to get into my play here in a second. Michigan is disrespected because they don't play like everybody else. They don't throw the ball around like Ohio State. They don't throw the ball around like Alabama, or have these flashy plays. No. It's just Corum running the ball left and right for 200 a game. And so I think everybody's pissed about where Michigan is ranked because they're not getting the benefit of the doubt of Ohio State and Georgia. It doesn't matter because that game is going to get played. And so that's the other side of the coin. Should they deserve to be ranked there? Yes. Does TCU deserve to be ranked in the top 4? They're undefeated. They keep finding ways to win. Yes. But you're going to get games that are going to explain that. So anyway, without further ado, I want to do something. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and the guys that are listening, gals also, I want you to try to like play along. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and take the college football rankings. All right, so we're going to take it from the top. We're going to worry about the teams that could potentially do something in the college football playoffs. Okay, which is a subject of about 8 teams. Okay, so if I were to tell you there was one team that could make it that wasn't from the Big Ten and wasn't from the SEC and wasn't from the ACC, wasn't from the Big 12, who would it be?
A Pac-12 team.
And that Pac-12 team would be?
Are we talking about
Who's left? Who's got one loss?
USC? Yeah.
Okay. Who's got one loss from the other Big 5 conference?
Clemson.
Clemson. So let's take USC first, right? Because but when I'm asking you what you think is going to happen if they win out, okay? Because you already know they're playing UCLA this weekend, and Chip Kelly is fired up to beat them boys, and we're going to get into that here in a minute with my pick on them. But if USC were to play LSU or TCU on a neutral site today, this is Vegas odds. This is not my handicap, okay? This is a computer spit these numbers out on a neutral field. What's the spread? USC plays LSU and TCU. What's the spread?
Like USC plays both of those teams?
Either of those teams. Here's a guess. The number is the same for both.
Probably a field goal towards LSU and the other team.
Okay, 4. If
LSU,
the number would be 4. Correct.
Okay.
They'd be a 4-point underdog at a. Let's say they play
neutral state. Yeah,
Montana.
right.
I honestly am kind of surprised how close you were with that. So let's go ahead and talk about the big dogs. If Georgia played any of these teams that I'm about to reel you off, I want to hear your spread. And I'm just gonna say the names and I want you to give me a number. UGA and Ohio State.
I would take Ohio State by a field goal.
UGA would be favored by 2 points. UGA and Michigan, what would be the spread?
A touchdown.
4 points. UGA 4 points. UGA playing Tennessee. What's the spread? Neutral site.
10.
7. UGA playing
3 points every time.
UGA is playing Tennessee or no. UGA is playing LSU or TCU. What's the spread? Numbers are the same.
14.
14 points. Ohio State is playing Michigan. Neutral site. What's the spread?
Ohio State, Michigan? Probably 5 Ohio State.
2.
Jesus.
Ohio State would be a 2-point favorite and a neutral site with Michigan, a 5-point favorite with Tennessee, and a 12-point with TCU and LSU. Michigan would be a 3-point favorite against Tennessee and a 10-point favorite to TCU and LSU. And Tennessee today would be a 7-point favorite to LSU and TCU. Here's where it gets funny. Because this is your favorite team. Clemson. Clemson plays UGA on a neutral field. What's the spread?
Probably 2 touchdowns. Georgia.
14. Clemson would be a 14-point dog to UGA, 12 to Ohio State, 10 to Michigan, and 7 to LSU and TCU. They would be a touchdown underdog. Okay. And last but certainly not least, USC would be like I told you before, would be a 4-point dog to LSU and TCU and Clemson, 18 to Georgia, 16 to Ohio State, 14 to Michigan, and 11 to Tennessee. So with all of that being said, if odds maker – now, again, I'm not saying that the final gate number is going to be those numbers, but you just heard, okay, what it was. So for all the Southern Cal fans that want to be ranked so desperately ahead of somebody 3 weeks going into the freaking college football playoff, let's hold our horses, cuzzo, because you still have to finish out your season. However, and this is where you come in because I'd like to hear what you have to say. Is there a team ranked? Is there a team ranked right now? Southern Cal is at 7. Is there a team in the top 10 that has more to stand to win or lose than them over the next 3 games? 2 games? 3 games. 3 games. 3 games.
I mean, so Georgia's in, right?
Yep.
Ohio State, Michigan
Winner.
are right. I would say TCU as well because I think they have to stay undefeated to make it, which sounds crazy, but I would say TCU would be the team,
Okay.
and then USC obviously. Why? Where does USC fans want their team ranked? I'm confused here. So
Because they feel disrespected, and they have a
because
right.
LSU is ahead of them.
Yes.
Well, okay. So who has USC played so far? Right? They who have they played?
I mean, are you asking? Is that like
I'm
a
asking.
rhetorical question?
I don't know. I don't know. That's a problem, right? I mean, like
Mm-hmm.
I can name you in the top 5 here. I can name you notable games they've won. Who has USC beat? I know they've lost to Utah. I know USC struggled several games, including not Oklahoma State, Oregon State. So I know a lot about that. I don't know about who they've beat though. So I can tell you real quick. Hold on, let me pull up their schedule. It's right here.
USC still has to play UCLA this weekend. Then they're and again, and you know how hard a time I've been giving Notre Dame, but I still love them. They still have to play Notre Dame and then the Pac-12 championship, who most likely would be Oregon.
Right. And let me just go down because now I'm, if USC fans are actually disrespected, you beat Rice game 1.
Yep.
Woohoo! Everyone, a lot of good teams had watches first round. LSU didn't. So what happens if USC and Florida State play? Who knows? That's hypotheticals. Whatever though, I'll give them that even with, for say, LSU's current situation. You beat Stanford by 13 on the road. Not an impressive win. Stanford's bad. Fresno State lost their quarterback in the middle of the game. And Fresno State went on to lose the next game with their backup quarterback against UConn, who has historically been horrible the last couple of years. Shout out to Jim Mora, who's been carrying that team. Barely beat Oregon State by 3. I watched that game. That was a horrible game. I had a lot of money on that game and lost on them because I thought they were going to be the real deal. I thought Caleb Williams was going to be the Heisman. So I'm like, oh shit, okay. So I was on USC. If you go back to the earlier episodes, I was saying they could be a playoff team.
Mm-hmm.
They beat Arizona State, who we all know went through some turmoil in the middle of the season, and from the previous season with Herm Edwards. And they didn't really convincingly beat them. They beat them by 17 points, but it was relatively close throughout the game. It got out of hand towards the end. Whatever. Washington State at home by 16. That's just a team, but they're an average team. So congratulations. You lose to Utah on the road. That's your first tough game, right? I mean, that's statistically, that's your first tough game. You lose on the road by 1. And Utah went for 2, so whatever. So they played well, and I'm giving them their kudos there. That's the one game they've played so far this season. They barely beat Arizona, who's not good. Arizona's not good. All of these schools that they are beating are good at basketball. They're not good at football. So they barely beat them, and they barely beat California the week after at home by 6. And no disrespect to California, to Washington State, to Arizona, to all these whatever. These aren't SEC schools. These aren't even Big 12 schools. These aren't Big 10 schools. If you put this team this year with the way they've played throughout these games in either one of those conferences, they have at least 3 losses. And they beat Colorado, who I don't think has won a game. But they've won 1. Congratulations. They've won 1. So no, honestly, they should be happy to be in the situation they're in because if you go back to the rankings, Alabama is way better than them. They've played way tougher games. I'd say Clemson has played a tougher schedule than what I just named. And I know you can roll your eyes all you want, but I mean,
I was honestly trying to think of the games that Clemson played that were difficult.
Yeah. So that's factual. That's factual. So they're lucky to be 7, in my opinion.
Okay.
So yeah. I'm sorry I had to go off the
No,
rant there because their fans can fuck off.
Right.
Like seriously, yeah.
You're right. No. You're 100% right. But that's the thing. So it's kind of like when you're consoling like your loved one. Like you've been here before. Like how many times has your girlfriend like been in a mood and you're like, you know what? You're allowed to feel that way because you do have feelings and it's yours and they're not mine. So you can feel however you want. If they feel disrespected, then they feel disrespected. They're obviously we're going to be jaded to other people because they're not our team. But the fact of the matter remains is that I took the guesswork out of it. I did what you did. I did something the opposite of what you just did. I went and put math to work. I'm telling you what Vegas would put if that game happened today with every single team that has a possibility of making the college football playoffs, and miss me everybody with Michigan is fraudulent. With Ohio State hasn't been playing anybody. They do this every year. Like this is not the first year that Ohio State and Michigan have not had multiple teams on their schedule. Like take them to the end of the tape and slug it out at the end of 4 years. Michigan State's reeling. Okay, Michigan State's reeling. Iowa is a shell of themselves. You finally had Illinois. Brent Bielema has got them boys rocked up on something. We're going to get into him here in a second with the plays, but I mean it's those two, and so I can't I just can't understand why the message is not the same for Ohio State and Michigan that it is for USC, because we look past everybody else that USC plays that aren't good. But when Ohio State and Michigan do it, now all of a sudden it's a problem. And Michigan specifically, because after the whole Jim Harbaugh, and let me get off. Let me tell you something. The fact that Jim Harbaugh almost like he was leaving for the Minnesota job, like he was going the Vikings job, like that was an absolute thing. So the fact that he has regained the trust of these players to play the way that they're playing, I got news for you, bub. Whenever Vegas makes that game, and I would have to go on FanDuel and look at it to see what the spread is going to be. There is no part of me that could confidently bet on Ohio State. Not one part of me. I might, but if you ask me today, bro, who else is? They are literally the diet version of Georgia. They are the sugar-free Sprite of Georgia. They are just running it directly up your donkey every single game for 200 yards. And when they have to throw it, they can. They don't want to, but they can. And so I'm sick and tired of the double standard, bro. Let the games play out. And for all of the people that are pissed about LSU with 2 losses, LSU is about to run into the best team in the nation in 3 weeks. We're going to find out if they're worth it or not. And also, they have to go to College Station and that dumpster fire that's happening over there. Did you just see Walter Nolan now allegedly in the transfer portal? They're like prized possession number 1 overall recruit.
Oh, the recruit, yeah.
The D lineman, bro. Look, I am. Please don't make me talk about Texas A&M again, because I'm going to blow a blood vessel if I have to continue to talk about the amount of ways that A&M has disappointed my soul in this entire thing. So, without further ado, I would like to ask you just a general question. And this does not have to be rhetorical. This is just like for you. If you were to gift wrap the season, because I have news for LSU fans, you need chaos. You're not getting in unless there is some. Oregon did you a favor and lost. You need USC to lose. You don't really need Clemson to lose, but you definitely it could help you. And you need there to be chaos, and you need one of the Big Ten teams to bludgeon the other. Because I got news for you. This is the year that the Big Ten could have 2 teams. I don't care what anybody says. This is the year that it could happen. If it weren't for the fact that Tennessee is waiting in the wings. So you need chaos. You need TCU to lose. You need USC to lose. You need there to be a bludgeon match in the Big Ten matchup, because it's going to be too close. However, when you just bird's eye view the whole thing, if LSU wins the SEC championship, they're not keeping them out. And I don't care what anybody says. They are not keeping out the SEC champ. They won't. It doesn't matter if they have 2 losses. They aren't doing it. Everybody else is going to have to be figured out around them. They're going to go 9. They're going to go 10-5, and they're going to put LSU in, and then they're going to rank everybody else if that's what happens. However, I don't see that happening. But that's why you tee it up and kick it off. So this is my question. My question to you. TCU runs the table. LSU runs the table. Georgia has one loss. And let's just whoever wins the Big Ten title. But USC runs the table too. You're now left with the obvious. The one-loss Pac-12 champ or the two-loss SEC champ. Who's getting in?
Okay. There's a lot to unpack out of everything you just said. I want to start from the very beginning. I have all. I will get to it, but I didn't want to interrupt you. So,
all right.
First of all, let's say, I guess for being fair, I think I grasped this correctly from what you were saying. Michigan, Ohio State, USC. You're saying why isn't USC or why isn't Ohio State and Michigan being held to the same standard as USC? Is that what I – okay.
The plain, the easy people.
That's fair. That's fair. So arguably they've played – well, I would argue Ohio State's played the toughest schedule out of the three. But they're doing their job.
Yep.
That's why they're not being held to the same standard as USC, who I just went over their schedule. They haven't been doing their job. They've won one-possession games against below-average teams. Ohio State, first game, Notre Dame. Struggled against the top 5 team, at the time. Obviously they aren't a top 5 team. But outside of that, they won by 30 against Arkansas State, by 50 against Toledo, by 30 against Wisconsin. They're doing their job. They've won convincingly in almost every game, and they've had only a few hiccups. Michigan, they haven't really had that tough of a schedule. They played Penn State. That was really their only big game, but they won convincingly. But they also win by 40, win by 40, win by 50. Struggled against Maryland, who's not a horrible team. They're better than any team that USC's played outside of Utah. Won by a touchdown, though. Won by 13 against Iowa, 21 against Indiana, 30 against Penn State, which was a convincing win. And they're blowing people out. They're doing their job. What you're supposed to do against a bad team is beat them convincingly. So that's why they're not being held to the same standard. And that's why, it's going to be tough when we get to this situation, to the top 4. So let's get back to that point. So you're right. LSU runs the table. They're in. You cannot argue against it. I'm sorry. You can use the argument of 2 losses. That's fine. They're not leaving the SEC championship out. So your question was, if LSU runs the table, TCU runs the table, Georgia's with 1 loss, and
the Big Ten.
I'm going to assume in every scenario that Ohio State wins because Vegas has them favored, right?
Okay.
So let's call it Ohio State. So Georgia loses. Who's the number 2 team right now? Ohio State?
Mm-hmm.
So Ohio State's number 1, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're the number 1 seed. Okay. I think by default, TCU goes number 2, right? Undefeated.
Okay.
Conference champ.
Okay.
Georgia's number 3. 1 loss.
So you think okay.
And LSU would be number 4.
Okay. So you think that they would rank them, you would continue to rank them above LSU despite the game?
Yes.
Right.
All these fans. So Tennessee is actually kind of in a good spot if you think about it, right? Because there's this debate.
They're waiting for everyone to lose.
There's this debate that they're in the best spot possible. Well, if LSU wins, LSU's getting in over them. So like they can get over that. Like yeah. I don't give a fuck about what happened a month ago. So that's what I would have it as. But Tennessee's in the best spot. I mean, Tennessee, if you mentioned chaos, LSU doesn't need to wish for chaos. They control their own destiny. If they win their next 3 games,
it's less murky waters though. Is what I'm trying to say. Like you're not having to sift through that.
They control their own destiny, in my opinion. And if they win out and they get left, then there's going to be a huge problem going forward as far as the validity of the committee, and that is because you've got to look at the strength of schedule. If we're comparing LSU and Tennessee, that's the only tough talk because Tennessee is in the same conference. However, they didn't get to their conference championship. That's just how the rules are. And usually this problem's on the other side in the West. It's not usually the problem in the East. But that's the only tough conversation to have as far as LSU winning out is concerned. But at the end of the day, I think winning your conference championship trumps whatever happened in the game head-to-head 6 weeks ago. So I would have Ohio State or the Big Ten champion number 1, assuming they're undefeated. TCU number 2, assuming they're undefeated. Georgia number 3, assuming they're undefeated. And LSU number 4. Now, let's also play the situation if Georgia wins, and let's say TCU loses.
So 1 loss Big 12 champ and 1 loss Pac-12 champ, 1 loss ACC champ,
and 1 loss Tennessee. That's a more interesting conversation.
That would be the one that would break the internet. But again, but you're getting into my point. Like, my point is you are not supposed to be ranked on what you think will happen. We're not in the prediction business.
That's not what's going to happen. It's how good of a team you are. Yeah, it's how good of a team you are and what you've done. What you have a resume. You are building your resume throughout the season. So
you should be valued based on how you're playing today and how you have played. It has to be connected to one. You are being valued on what you have done up until this point, not what you think we're going to do. If like it blows me that that's not a common place to think about, but I agree. I think that's the more juicy play because then you're looking at 3 conference champions with all 1 loss, and so that's whenever you start to really kick sand in somebody's eyes because you're trying to tell them that their conference is weaker than the other.
So who gets in? Who gets in your conference? In your opinion?
Definitely not Clemson. And if it really came down to it, it would be USC. Because their loss would have come just now. Like the Big 12 loss, you have to fault them for that loss, whether it's 1 spot or 2 spots or whatever, and there wouldn't be enough time to make that game up. And with USC continuing to win, I just led it to this point earlier. You're playing ranked UCLA, ranked Notre Dame, and then most likely another at this point now a 2-loss ranked Oregon to finish out the season. It's going to be USC. If that happens. If that happens, it will be between USC and Tennessee. And if Tennessee gets in, I think the world might break open.
Okay, so let's make sure we're getting this straight. So Georgia's 1, Ohio State's 2. Who are you putting at 3 and 4? Out of those 4 teams. You have 4 teams to pick 2 from. You got Clemson, USC, TCU, all 1-loss conference champions, and then Tennessee. What 2 are making it, and who gets 3, who gets 4?
But see, now I'm thinking about a 1-loss Big Ten.
Okay, let's throw them into the fire. So let's say it's Michigan. So Georgia's 1, Ohio State's 2.
Say it's a field goal win and Ohio State wins.
Okay, so now you have 5 teams to pick 2 from. Let's say TCU also loses a tough game at Baylor. I think that's their toughest game left. Do they have a conference game?
I think you let in the conference championships. The conference champions have to.
There's 3 conference champions in this case.
That's not, and it wouldn't be Clemson because you'd have to look at the conference champions.
All right, so Clemson's out. I think Clemson's out regardless, right? I don't think Clemson has a chance.
I think so too. I'm just talking
unless chaos, and chaos can happen.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think TCU gets over Clemson with each 1 loss?
Yep.
Okay. Do you think Tennessee gets in over Clemson?
Yep.
Clemson conference, Tennessee. Yep. Okay. So Clemson would be out.
Yep.
All right, so now you have 4 teams. You have USC, 1-loss champion, TCU, 1-loss champion, Tennessee, 1-loss not champion, Michigan, 1-loss not champion. Tennessee lost to the number 1 team, Michigan lost to the number 2 team. So if you're taking a body of work,
Tennessee is my answer. I think because I'm thinking of them losing a game and dropping them. And Tennessee's just waiting there with this 1-loss record, what I think it would be would have to be USC and TCU or USC and Tennessee. I don't think they give the
Okay.
one loss because of the strength of schedule, like you just talked about.
I will concede that I'm not taking that into account because they have a tough schedule.
I don't think it'd be Michigan.
If USC runs the table, that's impressive because that's a tough stretch they've
It
got
is.
going on.
It is.
Okay, so USC runs the table. They're in. Man, TCU versus Tennessee versus Michigan. I think Michigan would be out of these three teams.
I agree.
I
agree.
Dude, what TCU has done is understated.
Dude,
very
call it luck, but they keep winning.
Do we not take into account anything to do with Vegas, like how a team was an underdog going into a game? Like, how many times have they been an underdog?
I don't know if they look at it being an underdog more so as I do know that they
or like a road game. I guess they look more into a road game win.
They've mentioned them having to come from behind before as a knockdown from them not being ranked higher because they've been down in games, so they look for dominance. Remember in the 2019 year, and it was they this nerd came out and said that LSU wasn't ranked number one because of the defensive piece, and then they came out and just shredded up with like 5 interceptions against Ole Miss. It is. It blows me that we're trusting into the hands of 4, and I can't wait until this is all like said and done. Of once this is expanded and we can just stop all the nonsense. Not even because I want it to expand, but once it's expanded, now we no longer have to complain.
We'll still have these conversations,
but people are going to get drugged, bro. You're going to have that one. Whatever. I'm not going to offend anybody.
So let me bring this, and I don't care. Like, this episode's going to be long because it's a Friday night. And I've been gone for a while, so I'd like to talk about some things. So I don't care when we run out. Anyways, let's have this conversation. And I want to hear your opinion on this. So Texas is a above average team at home. Would you agree? Right? I mean, like they're okay. You saw TCU dog walk them. That game wasn't even close. Okay, so out of USC, Tennessee, and Michigan in the same situation. And you're not assuming Texas, because I'm crediting TCU's defense. There was no one open. They played that wasn't Texas being bad. I mean, they weren't great, but TCU's defense it was the cause for Quinn Ewers sucking. I've never seen Alabama couldn't do that to him. So do you USC, in my opinion, I want to hear your opinion. What do you think USC does in that scenario on the road against Texas in that game? And you don't know anything. Just play this week. Like, don't take Vegas out of it. What do you think? Like, do you think they would do what they did that TCU did? Like, do you think that would be the result? Do you think they would absolutely dog walk them?
The USC?
Yeah.
No.
What about Tennessee?
I think Caleb Williams would have probably 300 yards passing.
Okay. But do you think Quinn Ewers has more success against USC's defense compared to TCU's?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. What about Tennessee?
Tennessee would beat Texas by at least, I would say, at least a score. At least I'd probably 10 points.
Okay.
Maybe.
What about Michigan?
I don't think styles do make fights. I've said this 1,000 times. Michigan beats that by at least 2 scores.
So TCU, out of all of your scenarios there, TCU had the most impressive performance based on what we just talked about, because TCU dog walked them. It wasn't close. And that's against the same team. That's the same situation. You are plugging in the same team, or you're plugging in against the same team and on the road against Texas. I agree with you. I think USC struggles. It's a very close game. I don't know who wins. Tennessee, I think Tennessee wins, but not as convincingly as TCU. I think they win by a touchdown. And Michigan probably wins by 2 touchdowns. Michigan's style, I don't think Texas can hang with that. But that's a style. So, like, my argument is why aren't TCU and Michigan getting more credit here in this scenario that we're talking about? There's going to be 4 teams if everyone runs the table minus TCU losing this weekend. Why isn't TCU getting enough credit? If anyone should be pissed, it should still be them because the resume speaks for itself. They've played tougher people. They've dog walked their competition. They've had a few tough games here and there, but for the most part, they've dog walked their competition. So it's going to be a tough conversation. I'm hoping that scenario happens because I want to see it play out. But college football, it's not going to play out this way. UCLA when they played against Utah looked like the best team in the country, and this is a similar situation. It's on the road. They're playing at UCLA. DTR looked like a Heisman caliber quarterback passing, and he's not typically a passer. I think Bobo had like 240 yards against Utah. To me, I don't think USC wins that game. I don't think USC wins out. I think USC might have, let's say, 3 losses by the end of the year.
Dang,
I think
okay, so 2 and 3, okay.
Michigan's going to have 1 loss. I think Ohio State's the best team in the country right now. Tennessee really, if anything, needs shit to get wild. Not LSU. I think LSU doesn't. I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters at all. I just don't think they have the nuts to leave out an SEC team. Or the SEC conference champion. I just don't think they have the nuts.
You brought up strength of schedule. The strength of schedule. This is ranked from hardest to worst. The strongest strength of schedule right now inside the power rankings, the college football playoff. Tennessee has the number 3 strength of schedule. LSU has the 11th. TCU has the 38th. Georgia has the 44th. Clemson has the 55th. Ohio State has the 60th. Yeah. USC has the 65th. North Carolina has the 75th. And Michigan has the 82nd ranked strength of schedule. That is by courtesy of Wes Rucker 247.
No, yeah. I think that's valid. I mean, I personally think there should be more weight with strength of schedule. There's just not, right? I mean, like historically, there's not with the committee, right?
Are you shocked at how high TCU was at 38?
You thought you think I thought they were probably like
TCU was 38 and Georgia's was 44.
No, TCU's played a tough schedule. Yeah, I'm not shocked at all. Okay. I actually thought it would have been lower. Like I thought they would have been like top 15, top 20, but whatever.
And do you know why Tennessee is ranked so high?
Because 3 of the teams they've played are in the top 10 right now. And so, Alabama, and look, we can argue how Alabama played against LSU compared to how they played against Tennessee. Alabama played the worst possible game against Tennessee, and several circumstances you can point to were the reason they lost, whether it be a fingertip on a field kick try, the 30 penalties they got called on them. Compared to when they played LSU, they didn't have that caliber of a game. They didn't play spectacular because I don't think Alabama is we're used to seeing Alabama play at an Alabama level, if you know what I mean. But
styles make fights. Styles make fights.
But Tennessee, if we got Alabama's Tennessee as far as LSU is concerned, I don't think that game goes to overtime. I don't think maybe it's a 10-point game. Just with the volume of mistakes that were made.
Tennessee's defense isn't as good as LSU's. LSU played
not even close, not even debatable.
Tennessee.
And people are just starting to figure out about Harold Perkins. People are just starting to recognize.
Oh, we're gonna get to him. Tennessee is played LSU. Tennessee is better than them. From the body of work that we've seen, they are, even if it's a hair better or a lot better, they're better. And they played LSU
than TCU
than LSU.
Tennessee.
Okay. Tennessee has not played that LSU football team. And I told you when the game happened, I said if they played 10 times, that outcome happens maybe twice. I said I think that they probably win 10 games with LSU. They probably win 5 of them, 6 of them. And you've played them with nobody on the offensive line, and LSU had absolutely no help in their defensive back. You did not have your quarterback back there in Major Burns. You didn't have Harold Perkins. Harold Perkins played 9 snaps in that game because they didn't figure out how to use him. Now he is arguably in the top 3 best players in college football right now.
He's already at Will Anderson's level.
He is doing things that we've seen Will Anderson do early on.
Yeah.
Can he continue to do it? Who can say? What we will see, because what makes Will Anderson so good is that he did it for so long, and now he's kind of coming back to the pack because they're figuring out how to block him. He's going consistently about double teams.
He's not as big. He's not as big.
No, but he's still a menace, man.
As like, remember, I guess let's take Jadeveon Clowney when he was in high school, in college.
Right.
That is an animal. Like Will Anderson isn't that size. He's not that he's not that physique. I just think I think he might have trouble in the NFL if he doesn't put on some more weight, some more muscle. And look, I hope no one takes that in the wrong way. I'm not an edge rusher. I'm not claiming to be a specialist. From what I just see, I just don't like. In the comparison to Clowney, and Clowney's a super freak. So I mean, it's not like that's kicking down Will Anderson, but yeah, man. It's just a deal where it's always going to be an interesting situation. I think Tennessee mainly is the beneficiary of LSU and Alabama and Georgia having success. Because if let's say LSU doesn't turn out this way, right? Say LSU loses to Bama, loses to Arkansas, and they're an average team. Are we saying the same thing about them, about Tennessee? Are we saying the same thing about their strength? Because we know Bama's not Bama. In this instance, let's say, like in this hypothetical, LSU's not LSU. Where are you now? How is their schedule? How is their strength schedule affected?
Which is why you have to judge people based on what they've done and not what you think they're going to do. And so, I think you hit the nail on the head with that. And so that's why, even with getting into my plays like that, that's why I've put them at what they are, because you have to be valued on what you have done and not what we think you're going to do. One of them is kind of away from that metric, but we'll see, man. And again, this is all going to play out. Okay, This is all going to play out. You and I, are still very much, going to have the opportunity here to call one of these. We're going to do a little companion show. Well, no matter which one. Well, there was a point in time when we thought about maybe wanting to do, obviously, the Alabama Tennessee game, and that would have been great. But obviously, things fell through. But
we should definitely do the conference championship game if possible.
Yeah.
We should also do our reaction to the announcement of the playoff teams, because I'm kind of interested in getting live reactions there and having an episode then. So I would say let's shoot for those two. We'll have to work out our schedules, obviously, but let's shoot for the conference championship game, and let's shoot for the reaction, which I think would be the next day, right? Isn't it the Sunday after?
Mm-hmm.
So let's shoot for that. Hopefully we can get that going. That way we can end. And look, we'll have plenty of episodes. Bowl season will just be beginning, and where some bowl game stands here. So maybe we can start our own group on ESPN as far as that's concerned, and see if we can get
like a Bowl Mania challenge.
Yeah.
I think we're in a good spot with it. I think that you're going to find throughout the season that things are always going to play themselves out, no matter if you want them to or not. And only very seldom will you get like a couple of years ago with Penn State. There's a 2-loss Penn State. They win the Big Ten and they're left out of the playoff, and the person that they beat ends up in the playoff. Like I think the committee's learned from that, so I think they're going to have to reevaluate, how they think. And so with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to reel you off my plays here, because I've been staring at them and I really want to get them out.
Get into it.
So I'm actually going to play the there's a really, really good reason why I think a lot of people should play UCLA I just don't have the balls to do it, so I'm going to play the over. I think that the last time I checked this game, it was somewhere in this. I'd have to check, but I am going to play the over, and the reason for that is because whenever I went back and looked at this game, I said, there's been a lot of times in which this game has not only gone the way that we want it to go, but it's also been like that kind of game where one, the uniforms are going to be great, and I know that there's a lot of people that don't. Oh, Trey, why the hell you give out uniforms? Well, I like the uniforms. I think the uniforms are fun. I think that it brings me back to a time in which when I was a little kid and I wanted to be them, and so I'm going to take the over. I'm going to try to find this line for y'all really fast. What's the live line at, Russo, if you can't help me out?
My bad. Am I here?
76 and a half. So I decided that I was going to buy this one down because I thought it was maybe going to come back to about 73. So let's buy that down to 70. Well, yeah, 72 and a half. So I guess 73 and a half. I'm going to play the over because it's continued to hit. The history says that it's going to play. So I'm going to hit the over on the UCLA game and USC and just let the chips fall where they may. I'm going to play the alternate line of 14 and a half with Michigan. I think Michigan's better than Illinois. I think Michigan wants to come out and prove they're better than Illinois, and I think Bielema is going to have a good game plan for them to keep it within 3. But I like Michigan to cover the 14 and a half. I also like the over in the Ole Miss and the Arkansas game. Look, Lane Kiffin is pissed. He's been disrespected. I think that a lot of people have been kind of like trying to jump off the Ole Miss bandwagon and push him on to Auburn. Well, I don't necessarily know if he wants to go to Auburn because I think that he's fine where he's at. And Arkansas, I would love nothing more than to just, pee all up in their Cheerios. So give me the over in the Ole Miss Arkansas game. This game has historically gone over. And then give me the Pitt and the Duke under. The reason for that is because I was talking with a guy. I went to a basketball game this week. Guy that I was talking to, weather thing, super cold, super chilly. The tendencies of going under. And I said, well, the one team that I've been looking at on unders has historically been the Pittsburgh and the Duke game. And just all year long, they want to run the ball. They want to run the ball. They've said it in every postgame press conference. We want to dominate the line of scrimmage. We're going to run the ball. We're going to run the clock. Okay, well, then give me the under then. So if that's what y'all are going to do, then give me the under on that. And then because you guys know that I love to do it, I'm going to give you guys the plays that I love, but have barely missed. I love the Utah. I love the Utah line here. I think they said something about Bo Nix is not going to play, so I love the Utah line. If Bo Nix doesn't play, I think Utah wins that game. Oklahoma and Oklahoma State on the over. I think both of these teams are frankly not that good, and it's going to be a battle of bedlam to see who's going to be the better of the two crappy Oklahoma teams. I think both of those two teams are serviceable as far as coaches are concerned. I think they just kind of have a little bit of itch in their craw. I think this is going to be one of those games where they just kind of knock down, drag out, and it goes over. And then the last but certainly not least, I know that we've kind of talked about a couple of teams here lately on whether or not we think that they're going to be worth something going down the stretch here. And one team that I really, 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 really want y'all to watch, nobody else is paying attention to this one, is that Georgia plays Kentucky. We've said it 1,000 times. Teams play their worst games of the year. Teams play their best games of the year. Is this the week that Kentucky decided to maybe play their best game of the year and maybe make it a little bit closer than Georgia wants? Who can say? I'm just saying. I'm not saying they're going to do it. I'm just saying that this would be a Kentucky thing to do, to come out and play them hard and give them a scare here. So that's my plays for the week. And we're gonna see if you can beat me on these.
All right. I like your plays. I've got I'm gonna call it the grade 8. 8 player props.
8 of them.
8 player props.
Okay, reel me some.
All right. Jaden Daniels over 225.5 passing yards. For some reason, this game is 2 touchdowns?
14 and a half.
I don't know how I feel about that. Anyways, he had a below average game against Arkansas. So I expect him to get some confidence back going into the Texas A&M game. 225.5 is not a large number there. Butte over 49.5 receiving. That's on DraftKings, so get that line before you go to FanDuel. They've established a pretty good connection in the last couple of games, so I like the development of that, and I think 50 is a pretty good number for a really good receiver. CJ Stroud, 300 pass yards. That's your Heisman winner right there, I think, barring catastrophic things happening. They're playing Maryland, who is just a team that loves to get in shootouts, so this is a perfect game to hit 300-plus yards. And with that, I'll take his second receiver, Emeka Egbuka, over 75.5 receiving yards. Marvin Harrison Jr. has had an insane year.
He's so good.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go with Egbuka just to play safe in the instance where they double cover Marvin, for instance. So I'll go with Egbuka 75.5 over. So that's 4. That's half. We've got Bijan, a candidate that can make it to New York potentially. Understated. I know you hate Texas. Whatever.
I do not hate Texas. Stop.
So over 118.5 rush yards. High number. Go against Gamble. That's all I gotta say. His game log would say otherwise. They're playing Kansas. I'm pretty sure Kansas beat them last year. They're already pissed off at their performance, and I think that game went over like 120 points. So I expect them to establish their offense through him and score some points. My favorite bet of the college football season, and I really don't understand why Vegas hasn't overcompensated for this. Over 79.5 receiving yards. He catches a deep ball once a game.
For who?
Jalen Hyatt for Tennessee. Yeah. I mean, go look at his game log. I mean, it's crazy. I don't think he's lost. I don't think he's lost since Alabama. So there's that. Nick Bobo over 60.5 receiving yards. Against Utah when they were at home in a tough game, he had like 140, 150. So I expect in a tough environment for him to establish that connection, DTR to establish that connection with Bobo and get 61. And last but not least, the North Carolina receiver Josh Downs over 117.5 receiving yards. A sleeper for Heisman would be Drake May from North Carolina.
Stop.
I mean, he's averaging like 400 yards through the air for like the last 5 games. So his favorite target is Josh Downs. So
I think that Blake Corum was being slept on. The last thing I want to
sold last week in my parlay. So.
I want to say one thing, and I'm just gonna leave it at this. I love what we do. I love you, obviously. I love the people that listen to this, the friends, the family, the people that give us support. We yet again, I've said this 1,000 times, man. We are in the infancy stage of something fantastic and something great. Do not choose to be late to get in on what we're giving you. Literally for free for I'm not saying that it's going to end up being, the Joe Rogan experience or anything like that. Who's I think the dad to us all, but board the train while it's still at the station. And the last thing that I'm going to say, and I'm going to drop my mic, is shout out and prayers up for the people and the students and the folks at the University of Virginia, because coming from somebody that is in charge of taking care of kids, coming from someone that does love everything about their kids and the people that are around them, that's a pretty scary thing. So prayers up to them, man, and I hope that they have a speedy recovery. And all the prayers to the lives affected by the senseless violence.
Yeah, that's That was a bad deal. I know the guy that survived is from Baton Rouge, where we live. So, yeah, tough situation. Fuck the guy that did that, and fuck any person that is involved in a mass shooting. So, as far as doing it. So, anyways, board the train, like Trey said.
Because we going.
Be going. All right. Well, that was a fun 55 minutes. I feel like we could have done that for another couple hours. So, good conversations. We will be back next Thursday. I've got some normalcy in my life now, so I will be back next Thursday. And take care. Let's go.
Let's ride it, baby. Spin it.